Hey everyone, so today's video we're going to be going over Kalona. So Kalona's been pretty prevalent in the meta. She's one of the few counters to Cordelia. They have been introducing a couple more of them now recently. So I just wanted to talk about her. I recently got her Ascended 5 after the Guild versus environment. We got some of those summon crystals for LDs, and I ended up pulling 2 copies of her, which was really cool. So the reason why I wanted to show her today is because her Ascended 5 is actually kind of needed for her to be a legit counter to Cordelia, and I'll just mention that now. So with her trait, whenever a team member receives a control effect, so taunt, freeze, stun, all of those things, also morph counts as a control ability. She will remove one of the negative effects on herself and then apply speed up 2 to all team members and then launch a counterattack with her basic ability, which ends up removing a negative effect on one team member. Whenever she's unascended, she can only do this 1 time per round. So whenever she is A5, she can do it up to 2 times per round. So the reason why this is important is because Cordelia, if you trigger Cordelia at the start of the turn, she'll end up morphing someone and then jump to the front of the turn order. So if you can only do this 1 time per round, you're going to trigger Cordelia's morph. Kalona will then counterattack with her basic ability, remove the morph, but then Cordelia is still at the top of the turn order, so then she can just use her ultimate ability and morph the same person that she just morphed, and Kalona doesn't have any more counterattacks. So if she is ascended, she gets to do that 2 times per round, so she turns into a legit counter for Cordelia. So that is why that is important. It's also good to have this for 2 times per round for Aurea. You know, Aurea can do multiple taunts on her abilities, not just on her trait. It's also pretty good to have this against someone like Anamaros, who whenever he does his kind of joint attack or follow-up attack, if somebody misses their turn and freezes somebody again, she does have the ability to go in and cleanse it for a second time. So a lot of good things come whenever she is ascended. She's still 100% usable whenever she is not ascended 5, but I don't think she is a true counter to Cordelia unless she has that A5 ascension, which is definitely a bit of a bummer, because at that moment, I would say she's probably not as legit of a counter to Cordelia as, say, a Karma or something like that. But one of the things that Kalona actually does better than Royce or Karma is she doesn't gain a bonus turn. This is something that is somewhat of a downside for Royce and for Karma. Is Jabez is kind of a legit counter to those 2 heroes, where he is not a counter to Kalona because she does not grant that bonus turn. So anyway, enough with her trait. Basic already went over it. She deals damage on her counterattack from her trait and then goes in and removes a negative effect on a team member. This originally said all team members, and they changed it. At least the wording was incorrect in their eyes. So this is very targeted whenever it first came out to counter Aurea, because she came out a long time ago, before Cordelia and all of those things were even a thing. Aurea was kind of the premier light and dark epic, and Kalona was introduced to, kind of deal with her. So her whole strategy was to go in and remove that single target taunt from your fastest hero and completely, negate Aurea being in there. So this is very specific, to the individual control heroes, not the AoE control heroes like Anamaros, but it still does have some usability in that regard. But it is just 1 hero. Her special then actually removes positive effects. That's really cool. There's a couple heroes in the meta right now that put up positive effects on themselves. They have some kind of immunity. They have, invincible, or they have block. They have all of these different things. Unkillable. So having this on an A2 is actually pretty strong, and it does punish your enemy, your opponent, for not killing Kalona quickly. Because a lot of times, a lot of her value comes from her initial turn, removing that effect, and then using her ultimate ability. So following up with the special and taking care of any of those pesky positive effects can be beneficial. So don't sleep on this special ability either. And then her ultimate ability is fantastic. So she removes a negative effect on each team member. So it's a AoE cleanse of one negative effect, which is nice. It then applies control immunity and invincible to the primary target for 1 round. So she can target somebody and they'll get control immunity and invincible. And I know it doesn't say it here, but this was a recent buff to her where the invincible is also unremovable. So they can't go in and cleanse that or anything like that. This is a very strong ability. It's used to, target a hero that is otherwise squishy, that could possibly die very easily. But if they get to take a turn, it's going to work out really well for you. She used to be paired in tandem a lot with somebody like Bocce, because Bocce is one of those heroes that if he doesn't get to go, he can be sniped pretty easily by a couple heroes in the meta. But Kalona is actually quite fast, and you'll see from her stats here, she's pretty quick. Being able to put this up on those units to ensure that they get a chance to go is one of the reasons why she is a very useful hero still in the meta. She's not top tier anymore, but I think she is still a really nice support pick for sure. So that's a little bit about her kit. So her Ascension does come on Ascended 5, which is a bummer, but her health, speed, all of those things are pretty nice along the way. The attack is irrelevant, but the Ascension 5 is very nice. Her masteries, she does get speed, which is cool. And she does have auras, which is another nice thing. She doesn't have True Strike or anything like that because she is not a damage dealer whatsoever. She is purely there for support. So that is Kalona. She also gets a lot of really nice speed from her glyphs, and she also gets a lot of resistance, which is really important. Also, you see the 0% focus here. I actually didn't touch on this, but on her special ability, she does not need focus to remove positive effects. There are a couple interactions in this game where heroes have these abilities to remove things, and some of them don't require focus, and some of them do. Hers, you do not require focus to remove positive effects. So for her stats, she has just enough health to survive a Divine Yolanda ultimate. You want to get somewhere around the 26, 27, 28 to 30 range. The reason why that's important, Divine Yolanda should technically be able to do around 24,000 damage, just based on how her ultimate reads. But with relics, she's able to do a little bit more damage. So you do need to get a little bit higher in that regard. Her speed is fairly quick. The thing is whenever she counterattacks off of her trait, she gives herself 30 additional speed. So she can get up to the 352 range, which is really nice. That outspeeds a good chunk of characters within the meta. And it allows you to jump in front of the damage dealers from your opponent to then put up the invincible and control immunity. I am running her in very high resistance, although this should be higher. It needs to be closer to like 300%, but I don't pick her enough for me to really care. But the problem is with her trait is she removes a negative effect on herself whenever she does this to counterattack. So if she ends up getting controlled herself, if she gets frozen or if she gets stunned, she's not able to counterattack to remove the negative effect on herself and on your ally. So she does need enough resistance to resist debuffs so she can then counterattack with her trait and go into her basic. So that's why I'm running her with higher resistance. So that's her main deal. You know, in the arena, a lot of things that a lot of heroes that you'll bring her in against. Obviously, Cordelia is her main person. Aurea is another one. Garnet is a nice option. If somebody's running a stun set, Vengeful Hassle, that's another nice option. But also with the introduction of Adeline, Adeline's energy reversal is a control effect. So, like, for instance, against this team, it'd be really good for us to bring in a Kalona. So Kalona is in here to counter the Cordelia. So the Cordelia is going to go first. It's going to morph the Zoltan, because Zoltan gets an extra turn. Kalona will then counterattack, remove the morph. Cordelia will still be at the top of the turn order, and then she'll try and morph someone else, and Kalona will be able to counterattack. Then, on top of that, the Kalona is going to be 350 speed at that point in time. She'll be able to put up the invincible and the control immunity on somebody that you don't want to get energy reversaled from Adeline, and in most cases, it's going to be Shark Solandre. So that's how this interaction is going to work. We'll try and slow this down at the beginning just to show you what this looks like. Okay, so here's the extra turn. There's the morph, and then the Kalona cleanses it, goes back to the top of the turn order, and then she counterattacks for the second time. Now, Oderic ended up killing the Zoltan, which is okay. But here we have the ability to put up the control immunity on the SSA. So now the Adeline isn't going to be as big of an issue and render our SSA useless. So there, she did not have the ability to kill the SSA. And from this point on, it's going to be a tough fight just because we have a A2 Divine Yolanda, which is pretty funny. That ends up hurting us here in order to counter the Oderic, but we already utilized one of his counterattacks. Here we'll enable another one, he'll kill her, and then we'll be able to take him out. So that was Kalona helping us counter two heroes in one pick, which is really nice. Anytime you can utilize a character like that where she counters two types of picks that your opponent has, it's going to be a nice top-notch pick from a character perspective. This is, we don't really have other instances of this. No one's really playing Aurea, obviously. She's just easily countered by Karma, Royce, and Kalona in a arena offense setting. So that's not something that, you would prefer to do. I'm trying to see what else we can really show here. There's not many control heroes, being used in arena defense settings just because they're so easily countered. They are more there to be an issue from an RTA perspective. But I hope you guys understood the point. It's just a quick video today talking about Kalona and her abilities. So I guess we'll just go to the index here. You look up any kind of control ability. You have stun, silence, taunt, sleep. This also works for charm. It also works for there was that unique one that we just looked at. What was that called? Power suppression. Looks like they don't even have it here. Morph. Oh yeah, one thing to note, she does not counter Desdemona, because Desdemona can't be countered whenever she attacks, because why not? But these are all of the heroes that put up some kind of negative effect. So Tidecaller, we made a video on him. unresistible freeze on somebody, so he can target the Kalona, but if that's what he's doing, you end up mitigating the Tidecaller anyway. Royce puts up silence. SSA has that stun that can't be resisted, or has a 50% chance of landing and unresisted. Corrupt Aurak has silence. DDA, silence. Aurea, like I said. Morgan puts up stuns. So, I mean, there's just a wide range of heroes that do some kind of control effect, which Kalona can obviously be brought in against. And one thing that I want to mention is I think there's only 4 heroes in the entire game that have control immunity on either their trait or their abilities. So Zoltan puts up control immunity whenever he uses his ultimate. Crixus has control immunity whenever he activates his Shattering Blow from his trait. This happens based on the difference of his speed. Royce starts with control immunity in his trait as well. This is just a very strong ability. And then last but not least, you have people like Fahim actually has control immunity on his kit, but he needs to be Ascended 5 on his trait. So it's a really rare ability, and Kalona is one of the heroes that actually does that. So anyway, that's all I got for you guys today. I hope you enjoyed, and I'll catch you on the next one. See ya.